In this video, I'm going to go over the University of Calgary Pathologist Assistant Program to let you know a bit about the application process and the actual school part of the program so you can decide if this program is right for you. Hey, my name is Luke with Canadian Path Assistant. I am a pathologist assistant working in Western Canada, and I'm just working on bringing some information about the PA profession out to you. So in this video, just to let you know that all of the program description or program website links are going to be down in the description, and any kind of dollar figures that I mentioned, those will all be in Canadian dollars. So with that said, let's just jump right into it. So just some basic background information about this program itself. It is a 2 years master's degree, and the program is all course-based. There's not a thesis, even though there might be some research project components. It is a course-based program. The U of C website suggests 2 to 6 months to prepare all your required documents. So this is things like gathering transcripts or getting reference letters from people. So just a heads up, if you are looking to apply, I know that is coming up quick. And I say it's coming up quick because their application deadline is March 30th for the given year. So for this upcoming year, that gives you about a little less than 2 months to get everything in order. And then lastly, there is an application fee, which is $125 for Canadians or $145 if you're an international applicant. So now admission requirements for the program. They are looking for a 3.3 out of 4.0 GPA as a minimum GPA for application. They are looking for students to have a degree in biosciences or a science equivalent degree. So they don't have any required specific required courses that they want you to take, but they want to see that science degree. They are looking for a current resume as well as 2 reference letters. Now these reference letters aren't specified whether they have to be a workplace reference or a professor reference. I know some schools are actually specifying they want them from previous professors in required courses. Not so here. Just bring 2 reference letters to the table and you should be fine. Any students accepted into the program will have to get a bunch of immunizations just as part of the school curriculum guidelines. And then also, as stated before, March 30th is the application deadline for all Canadian students and international students. One last thing I should also mention is that this program does not require you to have an MCAT or a GRE score, so that is not required for your application. Next, after submitting your application at the end of March, you will have probably about a month or so before you hear back from the program. They receive on average 70 to 80 applications a year, so they're going to narrow that down to a short list, and then interviews will go out probably about a month or so after, around May-ish, and those interview offers will be just a day of interviews for everyone. The interviews typically are administered by a panel of individuals, and that panel is typically the program director, a current or previous second-year student who has gone through the program, the lab manager for one of the primary sites that you'll be working at or doing your practicum at, as well as 1 to 2 staff pathologists that you'll be working alongside as well. Now, given the current COVID considerations, these interviews are probably all going to take place online this year, but in previous years, these were all held in person. Then, after all the interviews are complete, probably before June, they are looking to send out offers for students so they can accept those and they'll start filling their seats. All right, now if you are accepted into the U of C PA program, the first year of your program is going to be all your didactic classes. So these are the classroom-based courses that you'll have to take before your second year. You need to carry a minimum of a 2.7 GPA, which is a B-, and I don't think that is unreasonable. You are taking courses in anatomy, physiology, cellular mechanism of disease, pathology, as well as histology. And you'll also be completing an online medical terminology course, completing a research integrity module, and a sex and gender online training module as well. Now, most of these classes, where available, will be held online, so all the classroom portions of your classes will be held online. But if you have a lab component to that class, say for anatomy labs, for example, those kind of by necessity have to be held in person, as well as your histology class will have kind of a large laboratory component, which you'll need to actually be in person for. Obviously, your quizzes and tests will be in person, and any sort of orientation-based courses or classes, so doing tours around the lab, getting your ID badges, and that kind of thing, those will be held in person as well. Once you complete your first year of classes, which are again held on a sort of typical university calendar schedule through fall and winter, you'll move into your second year, which is your practicum, and I think this is where the real fun actually starts for students who are in school. This program is going to feature a lot of surgical, pediatric, and autopsy pathology. And during those rotations, you're going to learn things like your basic grossing techniques, frozen sectioning, any kind of ancillary testing that goes on in the lab, as well as your adult and pediatric autopsy techniques. And kind of some specialty grossing things you'll look at will be like placentas when you're at a children's hospital. In addition to those sort of surgical rotations, you'll also be spending some time at a medical examiner's office, probably about a month, to get exposure to just the forensic side of autopsies. And I can tell you as of now that medical examiner's rotation is still ongoing despite COVID. I know some other programs have had to cancel theirs, so not so in this case. You also have a research project that you'll be conducting during the second year. Now, I said before that this is not a thesis-based program, and that holds true, but as part of the work that you'll be doing, you'll be working on sort of a guided research project alongside a staff pathologist, and that will be, again, administered throughout your second year. And then by the end of your second year, you'll be presenting your research findings to a group of pathologists. And in addition to that project, you will also be presenting a case at PA rounds across the city. Also, the final component of your second year practical rotation is going to be an integrated skills type of course, and that's going to be where you're learning things about kind of the QA and QC, the quality assurance and quality control that goes on in the lab, sort of basic laboratory management techniques, as well as reviewing the accreditation requirements for yourself personally and laboratory. So that's all sort of the admin side of the job. Now, when you're in the program, what might your kind of time management or school schedule actually look like? So again, your first year is all classes. So that is more kind of typical of what you'd get from just a regular university experience. I don't think there's an overwhelming amount of work. You might be in classes 3 to 5 hours a day at most, and then there's a lot of extra time for either studying, preparing for quizzes, or writing any papers that you might have. And then these classes will follow sort of a typical university calendar schedule. So classes will end about the first week in December for fall, and then sometime in April in the winter term. And that is because exams typically fall up before the term officially ends. Once you're in this portion of the year, again, the reading weeks in the fall and the winter, those apply as well. So you'll have a week off there and a bunch of time around Christmas. Once you start your practicum, however, you're kind of at work, so to speak. So you'll be in the lab 4 out of 5 days of the week typically, and that extra day, that 5th day, is usually assigned for preparing for your research project, doing research work, putting together your rounds presentation, or kind of other self-directed study that you might have. This rotation during your second year is actually going to sort of be a longer work period than your first year. So typically when classes would end for the university, and you'd have kind of that 3 weeks of exams take place in the fall and the winter, you typically will work or continue your practicum through that period of time until the university actually closes for, for example, for Christmas break. So again, it's not unreasonable, but it's sort of exposing you to what you'll actually be doing once you're in the workforce. Now, the different sites that you will be traveling to while on this rotation, you will have a primary site at sort of the main hospital where your classes are taking place as well. There's a rotation at the Children's. Again, I mentioned the medical examiner's office, and then you'll be traveling across the city to another site as well. So you won't be traveling outside of the city for now for any of your clinical rotations. However, Calgary is a fairly big city. I don't think it's reasonable to expect to use transit to get to all of your sites. I know the furthest site away, transit can be upwards of an hour to get there. So at some point in time, you'll probably need a vehicle for the program. And your rotations during this will typically be 1 to 2 months at each site, and covering different aspects of, your surgical pathology or autopsy pathology. And then the very exciting question of tuition, everyone's favorite question. So the tuition is actually split up on a per course basis, and then there's a program fee basis as well. The long and short of it is, for Canadian students, you're looking at about $30,000 in total, and for international students, you're looking at about $65,000. And again, if you go to the program website and you're trying to figure out how this is all calculated, again, there is a program specific fee that is assessed on a yearly basis. Then there is a kind of credit or per course fee that is also assessed. And the program itself is 45 kind of units long, and they assess fees based on every 3 course credits. Just some common questions that I've either been asked myself or I have run into and seen online is, first of all, what is kind of your time management looking like? Again, as I already mentioned, your first year when you're in classes, maybe 3 to 5 hours a week you're actually in class, so that's a lot of time for self-directed study and working on the online modules that you'll have. I don't think it's unreasonable in any matter. The program is listed as full-time, and I think if you were considering trying to work at all during your first year, it'd probably be the easier time to work since your time commitment in class isn't as large, but again, that's up to you. Once you're in your second year, I think your days are pretty jam-packed. It's going to be pretty difficult to try and work and be in school at the same time. Another question I've seen pop up a few times is about how many applicants are you getting per year, and this program is seeing 70 to 80 applicants a year, and they're accepting 6 per year. So just so you know. Another question is, how has COVID impacted your classes or the program experience itself? The first year classes, in addition to the program interviews, as much as possible, those are going to be held online. Once you're in your practicum phase of the year, those will by necessity have to be in person. But as kind of COVID restrictions change or sort of worksite restrictions change, that again is a little bit fluid, so that is subject to change, but the availability for online instruction is currently there. One of the question is, your ME rotation still a go? Again, I already mentioned yes, but just to reiterate, yes, medical examiner's rotation is currently still taking place. And the last question I've seen is, do I need shadowing experience to apply or to be considered as a successful applicant? And I realized that some programs do require this. For the U of C program, this is not a requirement, but I think it will help your application in the long run. If you have some shadowing experience, it shows that you know, you have kind of first-hand accounting of what goes on in the job, and that you are also interested in seeing what happens in the gross room. Now that said, I think that everyone is pretty understanding that it's pretty difficult to get shadowing experience during this time that we're in right now. So if you can't, I would say don't lose heart. I would still consider applying, but you can also see if there are kind of virtual or online shadowing opportunities that can be offered for you, and that may provide you the shadowing experience that you are looking for. So again, the links to the program website where you can find things like the course outline, tuition, and other general information about the program, as well as the admission pages, are going to be linked down in the description. Check those out if you are interested, and thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.